Hello, everybody, and welcome to this, our next edition of the Wisdom Factory Community Hangout. And I think this is number 3 now. Is it 4?
No, 4.
4. Oh, my
I don't
goodness.
count
They
anymore.
just keep going on and on and on. Yeah. And so if you think it's 3, you're talking about last week, not what we're doing today. Okay. Yes. Anyway, and today we are happy to welcome one new face in our Hangout and one new lurker in the background, Tom Zamara, who is kind of incommunicado. He hears us, but he has no audio or video that he can send us. But we do have Eileen Munch, who is a friend of Heidi's for some time now, and I have known of her too. But maybe you'd like to say introduce Eileen.
I think, Eileen, you introduce yourself, but first we say we have our old friend, he's not so old, but an old friend, Scott Marshall.
Hello.
Hi, Scott.
And now Eileen to you, and Tom, in the meantime, 2-3 words about you, and then I read them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Eileen, you are muted.
You're muted, Eileen.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
My internet is very slow tonight. It might break up, you know. So if we disappear, just know that. You know, it was flawless this morning, but Friday night in Saudi Arabia, it's a little bit a different story.
You're coming from Saudi
Arabia.
Arabia.
So I'm not coming from. I'm living there. I am in Saudi Arabia. Right?
Well, I mean, your signal is coming from Saudi Arabia. Okay.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So what do you want me to say? It's like
why you are here, what is interesting for you, and what you are expecting, you know.
Okay, great. Okay, I have done the training with Dr. Dornbach in 2007, and it really gave me a frame of understanding what's happening in the world. Just as a parenthesis, you know, I am a global citizen. I constantly travel from one place to the next. So I have experience in living in different cultural zones and in different cultures. And when I did this training, I started to understand more what is going on and how to kind of grasp it intellectually. Now, the challenge, and this is what we explored this morning, is what do you do with this intellectual knowledge? How do you then apply it in practical situations? And that's really what I'm interested to see where you're at in your discussions. I have not been able to join all the other times, neither have I been able to catch up. So I am kind of a little bit not quite sure the way you are doing this, but I will listen in and join in.
Okay, wonderful.
And I see Margarita is here.
Oh, cool.
Hello, Margarita.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah.
She's like our ever faithful, you know?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
great.
really happy to see you here.
I'm eating my ice cream because I think one has to have a little leeway, even though we are a scientific community that going to learn the new structure, whatever.
Oh, that's true, because you can include the lower means. Yes.
Okay.
And Tom has written, I'm currently enjoying a new intensive long course by Terry Patton, Integral Soul Journey, which is a great follow-up from Ken's course.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because we got to know Tom when we were in the Superhuman Potential course, no? And there were connections. And
Superhuman Operating.
Yeah.
Show.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he followed us often in the Wisdom Factory, and it's very grateful to see you show up, and now that you have your photo there. And I'm waiting for the time when we see you live. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Live and wiggling. Okay.
Okay. I sort of thought, as it is interesting to go back always to what has been in the in the live broadcasts. We had last time talked a little bit about Elsa Malouf and the route of peace in the Middle East. And this time we had Said Dawlabani, and he talked about a topic I thought I couldn't ask anything, but I again took away. With Elsa, I allowed him a little bit to do some questions, but yesterday...
And me, who knows everything about economics, didn't have a chance to ask anything.
Now, that's why you don't need to ask.
And I don't know everything about economics by any means.
Anyway, I would like that, I think all of you have seen it, to talk a little bit about what was the opening for you and what was interesting, but where there are still questions. And we will have him back. I think in August we'll have a separate episode and for questions to deepen into that. I personally found it really amazing.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? And Tom, always you can write something, okay?
He did. He said, maybe next time I'll borrow a laptop. He still has to watch the video.
Okay. So Margarita says there's a terrible echo. Aline, we don't hear you. You are muted. And I don't know where the echo comes from. It cannot be nowhere because everybody's muted or with headphones. Aline, you have to unmute yourself. We haven't heard a word yet. No, it's muted.
Okay.
Okay, now. Okay. You have to begin from the beginning.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was interrupted by a Skype call. My husband has left last week. He's arrived in France. He's calling me to tell me he's arrived. So I haven't even heard what you said. I'm sorry for that, okay? So you were asking for feedback on the Said, and I can't remember his last name. Is that
as you are living in this zone of the world we were talking about, I think it's especially interesting what you can say about it.
Well, I was really interested by what he was saying, and I totally got everything he was saying because I have this experience of living here, and my work here has been to see how I can help the women, because I really truly believe it is going to be through the women that any shift into another level of consciousness is going to happen. The men in that structure, from what I'm seeing, are just, too comfortable. They're just now, why, for example, Saudi Arabia, of course, is the extreme of that patriarchal system where women still don't have the right to drive, even, for example. So it's my efforts has been in helping the women planting seeds. That's really what I've been doing in my work here, planting seeds so that they can develop that inner freedom. And that's a long journey. I mean, I've been blessed to work with some women for quite a number of years, and I'm seeing the fruits, but it is a long journey to reach that stage of consciousness where what my observation also is the women in this country right now are where we used to be in the West in the 70s. I'm talking amongst the women, okay, because obviously I don't get to have that many interactions with men here, given the segregation in this country. And what I recall from the 70s, there was a lot of competition amongst the women when we were emerging, trying to show all the stuff we knew how to do, etc., which I am seeing here, since the only women that I can interact with are the ones who have a Western education and speak fluently English. I do not get to speak to the ones who have not gotten that level of education because they could not even understand what I'm talking about. And what I've observed is they have economically reached the orange meme, because most of those women are totally financially independent, and most of them, not all of them, have left their husbands or have stayed because it's just more convenient, and are financing what's going on in the household. The husband is kind of just the one who signs the paper allowing them to travel and blah blah blah. I mean, I'm just exaggerating a little bit just to express, but this is what I have observed, and it takes a long time to do that inner journey to reach a stage where you dare express publicly what you and we were talking about that this morning, what you believe and what you see needs to change in the society. It's not going to happen publicly that fast. Yes, Heidi.
I find it interesting because last time there were Marie Curie, and we talked about the orange level, and she said that for women it must be different. And you are describing how it is for women. They must get financially independent. They must step out. They must finally come out of their caring role for the family and for husbands or for whatever. While for men, obviously, orange is a little bit different.
And how do women manage to come out in Saudi Arabia on their own and become financially independent and maybe be, the primary breadwinners for if they stay in a marriage? That's surprised me to hear that about Saudi Arabia women.
Well, again, bear in mind that I am talking about the cream of the crop, okay? In terms of not it's a wrong expression. That's not what I intended to say, okay? But it's the leaders of the society of tomorrow. Those are the ones that change, and those are the ones that are also equipped intellectually to challenge the received beliefs and the very, archaic belief systems that are still being taught in the school system, in the public school system. And most of these women that, I have been privileged to work with, they have been educated in, usually some of them abroad, or even their high school education or their college education was either in England, some in America, or in Beirut, in Lebanon. So they have already that broad outlook of what life looks like, outside of a totally closed country. And but they still have. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to put into that what Tom said here in the chat room. What country are you in? Saudi Arabia. And Middle East society must be quite different than North American mainstream. A little bit you are touching on that. Maybe you can say it a little bit more
graphically.
No, not graphically, more what the real difference is. You are now describing the women who have a Western education. What is the mainstream woman, let's say, in Saudi Arabia?
The mainstream woman who has no education is completely stuck. Unless she abides by the prevailing belief systems that, and a lot of them are happy there, okay? I should say that also. That's what I'm hearing from my friends who want to change things, because they are in touch with those women. I am not, okay? So let's just put the this. What I'm hearing frequently is that they are quite happy to be taken care of financially, even though a lot of them now are working, and it's changing fast. Really, I mean, I've been here 18 years, so I have a perspective on the changes. And recently, with the late king, there was a lot of efforts in women education, because he really saw he was really working for progress, but like anywhere when you are in a structure like this, you know, without a blue structure, because there is no blue structure. They're trying, right, to put in those blue structures in the country to create a government that that functions, that is not just bakshish, you know, and paying things off, you know. Still a lot of this going on, of course, but that I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Well, I think for Tom, we might add, since he's coming from a Wilbur course, when you say blue, Tom, you probably understand amber level of development.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
For clarification.
It's confusing. I've done also that course with Ken Wilber, you know, the superhuman operating system. I was in that course also. But I'm so used to the other color coding, because that was my first training. So
sure,
I come back to.
Me too.
Yes, I think we generally go back to Don Beck's colors.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we invite now somebody else to talk about.
Somebody besides you and me?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be, I don't know, Scott or
I'll go next.
Okay.
I really appreciated the talk with Said. I thought that he was very clear about what he's actually doing, and it inspired me to order his book. So I just thought I'd be that guy that puts the book up in the screen. There it is, Memenomics. So I'm interested in reading. I just got it today. It just came in the mail. So while I'm unemployed and looking for work, I'll have something to do. What in particular that struck me, he answered some of my questions too that I had. What in particular struck me about what it appears that's happening in terms of economics is that in America that we're going to go into a green system at some point, and that was interesting too, because the America, in my opinion, has an impact culturally through entertainment and through maybe through sports or something, entertainment, but I'm not really sure it has the same impact academically or in leading thought like other parts of the world. I think maybe have more of an impact like that, and I think spiral dynamics has a lot of information for us that can help us understand how the cultures work and what they need to do next, and that they just can't skip that stage. They've got to build a healthy blue. They've got to get to orange, you know, and then we'll see what happens from there. But you know, it's a very complicated issue, and it requires you know, some deep study, I think, at least for somebody like myself, you know.
Well, like all of us, Scott. Come on.
Yeah.
Yes, you're pointing out that some of the differences between America and Europe, and one that he pointed out was that America tends to be a bit more on the individualistic side, which is sort of an orange bias, you know. And so he's expecting that there might be a really quick transition from orange into green and then quickly into yellow, because that again is an individualistic meme. And in Europe, at least since World War II, there's been more of a communal leaning in the social structure, and so Europe is lingering perhaps too long in green. But it's other people have pointed out too that the jump from green to yellow is perhaps as difficult as that earlier leap from red into blue.
Can I ask a stupid question? I think it is about that economics has to go into green and not from green into yellow yet. we are still in even if we have maybe overcome the apex of orange, but we are still there. That is not yet a green economy.
No, it isn't. No,
So
it's growing, however, and he pointed out.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's an interesting time economically because even yesterday I was looking at the news and I discovered that China had lost trillions of dollars in the stock market, the Chinese stock market.
Yeah.
So I remember Said was talking about how that seemed to be happening even for the last month in China, that their money just seemed to be going, you know, and that was the sign of China starting to develop into a more orange, or they needed to go into a more orange system. So I was thinking how on point and how important it is for this knowledge to get out there.
You broke up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
No, it might be our bandwidth. I shut down the other computer, so I cannot see what is coming out. But so I hear him.
I guess what
better.
you said, though. Yeah, it's interesting. China's going from that controlled blue into the free market orange, where it's too complex to be centrally controlled. And oh my goodness, surprises happen. Yeah.
But I'm a little bit surprised that although they had this Marxist let's say red culture for a long time, but that they obviously have developed blue structures.
Oh, that's what Marxism does. It makes blue, law and order, black or white, you know, authoritative from above, everything from the top down. Whether you're a 16th century Protestant or Muslim or
I understood
communist.
Stalin as a red.
He had a red driver, but he instituted a blue system to as much as he could.
You must excuse, I don't really understand much of these things, so I asked dumb questions.
But we're getting away from women's issues here too, and so I was really curious to ask the ladies who watched yesterday, what did Said say to you that you could put into terms that meant something special to you as women?
Ask Margarita.
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah, that would be good. Hey, Margarita.
Hi. Well, as I'm listening to all of you who really are into this, integral theory, and I am sort of a complete novice. I was thinking to ask this question about if there is several different individuals or groups of individuals in a society that, let's say, is like Greece. Greece was red, I think, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, Greece is quite red.
Yeah, and then if there is several different groups of people who have come further, what does that impact? Can it evolve by many people developing themselves? How does that work?
Well, I guess I'll take a shot at that anyway. It's quite complex, and there's probably no society that is all one color, let us say. I mean, because these things are waves of development and not levels, bam, 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 like step by step.
Let us show. Scott has brought up the levels.
Yeah, it's a complicated chart there.
I want to whiteboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now I should have them done.
So
it is so slow today.
Well, take a shot, Scott, if you like.
Okay, so I think Margarita was talking about how do you evolve? How does the self evolve? And there's, of course, the individual evolution of the self that goes through the same V-memes or the same stages. So everybody starts there at the bottom with instinctive self, or beige, and then you go to the magic tribal self, which is the purple, and then to the power self, which is the red, which is a lot of the Middle East is trying to develop out of red and into blue. And then you have the rule role self, which is blue, or the mythic membership kind of self, where you're following a holy book, for example, or some kind of law and order, good versus evil, stuff like that. And then
or Marxism's Das Kapital.
Yeah. And then so you
or
move.
Karl Marx's Das Kapital. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so you move from blue into orange. And that's what we were talking about yesterday, or the day before, maybe it was 2 days ago, the talk on the difference between unhealthy capitalism and healthy capitalism, and how, with rampant innovation in orange, you're trying to, get back to a more healthier version of capitalism, because that's creates the orange, I mean, is creating the world's GDP right now. So that's part of it. So people are evolving through these colors individually and collectively.
Yeah, the question I had was, like, can a group of people who is very highly developed, let's say Heidi and Mark is that group and this community, right? How does that influence the actual evolution in a particular city, in a county, in a section, or in the country itself?
Answer to that. I think the more people are in a certain consciousness level, the more they have a possibility to influence other people, possibility to influence the people around you. And we have the experience that most of our friends, when we talk about integral, and we have lately some conversations with people who are interested. So, and you go from one to the other. And if this is like a snowball system, and the more they are, I think it's 10% is the critical mass to really influence do what you do, and go sooner or later. Oh, I'm sorry. I said do what you do, and sooner or later other people will do what they do too in the same direction, and we will have the influence we want to have to help other people to come, in higher levels of development.
Is there a danger that there is groups in society, let's say in the Middle East or with the Muslim world, which I don't know too much about, but the women's situation there, we feel like as a Western, I mean, I'm Swedish and I live in Canada, right? I feel that it's like, okay, so having the veils and have less freedom, to me, it's I wouldn't be happy there. But as Aline said, many women are happy to have that support.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't judge them or anything like that. So they all how are they taking these new changes? Is that because there is this change inside that the old sort of the lower, if I say the lower strata of this is fighting for their dominance? Is that what we see in the in all the wars and all the conflicts we have in the world?
Well, I think you've hit on something really important here, because these terrorist groups throughout, well, obviously, the ones we know about lately, ISIS, for example, these are disaffected red adolescents. Maybe they're not adolescent in age, but they're adolescent in mentality. And they see the higher levels of development as being actually regressions to something that they have fought hard to get out of, the the confines and restrictions of tribal life, where everything was prescribed and there was no opportunity for individual expression. And so they know that there's something else, but what we have is not what they think we have. We have something that is much more evolved and has taken centuries to arrive at, and they just see us as threatening their individual expression of who they are. Yeah, and so they're raping and killing and having a grand time, like I don't know, 17-year-olds in Harlem, you know, unrestricted.
Well, it's like really critical here, because do you think that these, like, let's see, looking at all of these groups, that do they have the right to maintain what they've had?
It's not really a matter of right. It's just a matter of, you know, when you're 12 years old, you can't expect to have the same perspective as you do when you're 25 or 35 or 45. It's not that there's anything wrong with being 12. 12-year-olds are not defective 25-year-olds, you know, and this is the way people are.
The thing is that they have stopped in developing because their surroundings, their context was not giving them the possibility. But I think now with the internet and with the possibility to get oriented what other people do, they will begin, many more people will begin to see what is possible, and then there comes this desire to have something else and to go to somewhere else, and how else works, no, in development. Sooner or later somebody wants to get out of the old structure, and even they might get tired of killing other people, you know, because
another thing too,
you know, in the sixth. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say that there's important to mention that development is good, and you know, of course, people and culture should develop, but also a healthy structure is also important. So it's really in where you have unhealthy red or unhealthy blue, where there's corruption and there's the greed is overrunning everything, or there's it's also important to address that the system itself, where it is, should be healthy at that particular level, and only then can it really grow out of it. And more development isn't necessarily better in all cases, because it's a more complex issue than just developing out of the particular color that you're in.
Yeah, thank you. That's valuable to know. But there is also a individual interpretation of these things, and what is healthy? The guys in charge of this level they're at, that causes all dissonance for other people. They think that this is healthy for them. You know, they don't see that the other people are suffering because this is how it always was, something like that. Yeah. So it's also a matter of interpretation of the situation. So whose view will prevail?
I do think it is healthy is what contributes to the greater good. If you begin to kill hundreds of people, this I don't think anybody could see to contributing to a greater good. You know, if you fight against Ebola or what it is, that seems to be contributing to the greater good. I think we all have a sort of intuitive understanding what is the greater good and not what is good for me now. You know.
Yeah. I'm reading Tom's remark. he says he's not sure he agrees with my interpretation of the motivation of ISIS fighters. He says they want to impose restrictions, not seek more freedom. That's right, Tom. Restrictions on others who are violating their sense of what they think is freedom, you know. And right now, there's a big difference between ISIS and the earlier generation of Al-Qaeda. You know, Al-Qaeda, I'm simplifying, of course, you know, they promised their fighters, you know, virgins in heaven afterwards. But ISIS is not about religion. It uses it as a front, perhaps, sometimes. But they're not talking about pleasures after death. They're talking about pleasures right here on earth as they understand them, the control, the subordination of women, etc., etc.
That would mean that they are not interested in spiritual, religious values, but they're interested really only in that's for me.
That's for me.
And who is hindering me?
Yeah, anybody that's in my way is, I'm going to kill him if I can.
Genghis Khan all over, you know.
And what?
Genghis Khan all over.
Exactly. Except Genghis Khan actually was one of the most advanced people of his time. Unfortunately, that was a long time ago. And he spread culture, you know, from the Far East into, you know, Western Europe, Eastern Europe. And it was a way that cultures interacted in those days. So, as Alexander the Great did earlier, he took Greek culture and went eastward with it and affected India, for example, nastily, not pleasantly at all. Yeah. So this is a really primitive way of cultures interacting. But what can I say?
Well, this discussion is really interesting because we come up against our own biases, we come up against what conditioning we have, we come up against what other people's conditionings are, and interpretation. So we have to navigate inside, I think, to see, oh, I don't like these guys who suppress women, right? I mean, I have a bias because I'm a woman, but that's my view, right? Because I don't want to be suppressed and being, you know, sexually mutilated, what they're doing. Maybe some of these women are happy. I don't know. For my sake, I don't know. But this seems...
I would say not happy, yeah, because they have their container in which they know how to move, and this is safety, you know. And as long as you don't have the drive to get out of this container, which is sort of a prison, has boundaries, very strict boundaries. As long as you don't have the desire and the urge to go out, you are probably happier than when you are out and don't find where to go. You know, this is a bit the predicament of modern women who have lost this container, and now they have to go, but where? You know, and we have not really found yet where our place is and how we should be in the world. We try to be in a masculine way in the world, and didn't really work, and we have not found our own way yet. I don't know if you agree to that, but before...
Yeah, this is a good point, Heidi, because I see in Sweden too, many women, they are, you know, getting careers and they make money, but then they become lost, some of them, and the fertility goes down, and you know, like they don't want to have more than one child or no children. It's kind of things too. Whereas on the other way, from when I was in Egypt, for example, and visited the Bedouins there in Bahariya, the first thing every woman came with, showed up, this is my son, this is my child. Look, I have so many children. I mean, they were so proud of it. They seem to be happy. But But they couldn't discuss literature with me. I mean, I don't know the language, right? But you see what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So who is better off?
This is their value system, and if they are okay with this value system, it's good. But if you are not okay anymore, this is how evolution works, you know. And the price for evolution is what we are paying now, being uncertain, not knowing absolutely where. No, absolutely, maybe not. Not knowing exactly where to go, and trying to figure out. We have to tolerate this uncertainty, you know, and become comfortable with uncertainty, as we learned in Feminine Power, you know. As women are, actually, it's a quality of women to be comfortable with uncertainty, because by the biological conditioning they have, when a baby is in the belly, you never know what happens and how the birth will be and when it will be. And so we biologically are used to being uncertain and take the things as they are in the moment when they come, you know. So we need to transport it in other dimensions and of life, and following Barbara Max Hubbard, to go from procreation into co-creation, to use our feminine qualities, not for making thousands of babies anymore, because we don't need so many anymore, but for to co-create in the world some bigger babies, let's say.
Yeah. And just like Saudi men could learn from Saudi women now, Western men have been learning with difficulty and reluctance from women for the past 50 or 60 years. We are playing catch up with women who have already stepped out of a traditional role and are feeling their way into new territory, and we're wondering what the hell is the problem anyway, you know, and scratching our heads and following after.
There's a lot of comments from Tom. Can you read that a little bit?
Yeah, some of it he asked already.
I think it begins here.
Yeah, I can't seem to put myself in their place, the ISIS savages, to understand what they want and why. Thanks for elaborating, Mark. Well, perhaps I explained that a bit. And then he says, yes, escape from freedom. Eric Fromm wrote a book about that, with that title once, about how some can be attracted to being slaves in a known system. Yes, women are often the leaders in our evolution. So he's got several points to make in that.
We have humans, I think it's a condition that we don't want change, and that it needs to be really very heavy until we finally do it. And as long as we are comfortable in our cage, we stay there, you know. So, and not only women, I mean everybody.
Yes, everybody.
Well, there is a story in Buddhism, and that is saying you have a little canary in your cage, and this is your life, like pointing out to the disciple, right? And so in order to actually come out and see how it actually is, there needs a lot of training. Because if you open the door, the jaguar comes and eats you, or anything can happen. So it's actually a danger. What do you think about that?
So let us ask Scott and Eileen, who are a little bit quiet now.
Yeah. I'd like to hear from Eileen, actually, if we have. Hello, Eileen.
Unmute you. Yeah, okay.
What I would like to go back to is your original question of the takeaway from Said's talk. Because I think the discussion about ISIS and what's going on in the Middle East is far beyond any of our understanding. You know, quite frankly, it's so complex. You know, I have bits and pieces of information, and it's like I haven't been able to put together a picture. It's so complex. And so I don't really want to go into discussing anything about it, because I think it's totally beyond our level of understanding. Because what I'm kind of seeing is like we're coming from a green type of a discussion, arguing about something that we, of course, cannot understand because we have evolved, and attempting to explain it when really it's much more complex. So what I would like to go back to is like what Said said about Germany being the structure in Europe that is kind of showing signs of a yellow structure emerging. And he was also referring about France being green and wanting to tell everybody, you know, I'm French, so I know this structure, this culture quite well. You know, wanting to tell everybody they are right and they know better. You know, the judgmental French. I mean, this is my biggest source of pain in my life has been that. That's why I left France in the first place. But it is so true. And when I heard him say that, it went clunk. Yes, that's so true, you know. But what I'm also seeing, France has this green egalitarian, you know, everybody should have the same. But at the same time, they are very, very strong in blue, where the state rules everything, and stifles. You know, it's a very complex. I cannot say easily because it's also a very dynamic economically, they're also very dynamic and they have production and all that. But despite that, the government is constantly coming up with a new law about ruling something. And as from coming back, I come back regularly to France, but I'm always here for a couple of months and then I go again and etc. Then it's like I'm always, oh my God, how could you really have creativity emerge under such a, you know, rigid structure? Mm-hmm. And what I also thought was so right, because I am from a part of France bordering Germany, so I have a lot of German influence. I'm from Alsace, and I understand what he said. Germany out of guilt is kind of following because of the remnants of the war wounds that are still present in that culture. And I have many friends, you know, where sometimes this gets talked about. There is that guilt still culturally that is the patriarchy by excellence is kind of ruling life of everybody. But it's so true that they have also the green element very strong. You know, that wanting to take care of.
You were frozen.
Helping.
Frozen.
Sorry?
You were frozen.
Oh.
We didn't hear most of what you said for the last 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it is our end. We thought, okay. Tom could hear what she says. So probably it is on the recording and we can go back and see it. We have 9 minutes and I think I would like to hear a little bit Scott and then a sort of a last round.
Okay. I think that we're covering a lot of territory in what we're talking about, I think it's really important to kind of reiterate the fact of interpretation that Margarita said earlier, because I feel like there's something really important there, and that each level of development can't necessarily see what comes above it. It's literally over its head. It's something that it can't see. It's not in its awareness yet. So, for example, to enforce first-tier values, for example, like if there's a culture that's blue, it's going to really try to rule out red. Blue is going to rule out the level underneath it. It's going to work with the level underneath it, and then green, of course, is going to work at orange, and orange is going to work at blue, and blue is going to work at red. And so there's a kind of an interpretation that happens in those first tier values, if we're just talking about, integral theory or spiral dynamics, that they literally can't. They think that they're totally correct in their way of thinking, and that's why we have such competition in the world between green values versus orange values versus blue values, and so that who is right is a complicated thing to mention, because we don't know who is right unless we're more evolved, unless we kind of take that elitism into account, that the higher structures, or the more you can think about in your awareness, or the more a culture is evolved, the more it has to take care of the cultures that have come before it, the ways of thinking that have come before it. And that's sort of the responsibility. I think Said was talking about the responsibility of higher thinking or higher consciousness in taking care of and stewarding lower levels of consciousness, that it's the actual responsibility to do so. And whether or not that we see that a lot yet, I don't think is the case, but we'll probably start to see that particular kind of leadership happening in little areas around the world. And I just want to make one more mention of a thing that I like. Is there's a man named Rupert Sheldrake, and he has wrote a book on morphic resonance, which isn't necessarily his. There's somebody that came before him that came up with this idea, but that more and more complex organizational structures have an actual field of influence. And so whenever you talk about an integral idea or a spiral dynamics idea, or you get together in groups and you talk about it, the more it has an impact on that field, and that field, that morphic resonance field, has an impact on the world. And so that's why they call that a cosmic groove, or that's the lingo, that's a cosmic groove, and that groove is easier to get into the more it's talked about, the more that it's discussed, the more that the ideas permeate the noosphere, the planet that we live on. And like Heidi said earlier, it takes there's some talk that it takes about 10% from minority idea to become a majority idea, or to infiltrate a system. And that, hopefully isn't too much wishful thinking, but that's how evolution seems to work. And I just wanted to put forth that idea of morphic resonance, that the actual structures of consciousness have there's a territory of them, there's an actual experience of them, and that that has an impact on the world. So I'll just stop there.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
And Tom is responding to you in some way here. Scott, according to Ken, I understood that those at higher levels transcend and include lower level culture instead of simply opposing them. Right, Scott? I think you would agree with that. Sure.
It would be good if they did, let's say.
Transcend and include.
Yes.
The important thing is include as well as transcend. Yeah.
And we often exclude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ucky, yucky, green, go away. Blah. you know, is not quite the constructive approach.
Or the blue, go away, never rules anymore.
Oh my God.
What we try when we...
Terrible, rotten, red, blue.
But what Aline before said, this is the unhealthy and the healthy part. If we include what has come before, then a healthy development is more probable than when we say, oh, I want to get rid of what was before.
Yep.
This is for sure.
I don't like this in me, and I just project it onto other people. Blah. And Tom also says, yes, Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance theories explain an enormous range of phenomena very well. Indeed. Yeah.
And I wanted to say Margarita is working in energy work. In some way it's that, you know.
Yep.
That's heightening the energy. When they talked the green ideas of positive thinking and so on, there is some truth in it, no? Because we increase the if it's really positive ideas, we increase this energy field.
Sure.
Yeah.
Definitely, because when you, like Gandhi, for example, he went with an idea of nonviolence, and he demonstrated it, and in the end, that idea he had spread without having so much violence in there, and in the end, the English left from India, right? So
yes, the English.
That's a very good example of that, what you're talking about with the morphogenic field. And of course, in healing, we hold ourselves to be healthy with lifting of vibration up, and that trains the neurons in the brain, and more neurons get better pathways, and then connections are made. And I think that happens between people too. If we are here, especially with the group here, yeah, but anytime we talk, we make connection. Oh, yeah, that works with this. Maybe these two goes together, right? And I like, Scott, that you are somebody who can quote actual authors and in representation, because I forget names so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have to go right in 10 seconds. So thank you for today. And if you want, I can stay on but mute myself so that you're not get kicked off here, right?
No, okay. I thought it is on our end, but obviously it's not. So we are in the last round, and this is your last word for today. Okay, bye-bye, Margarita.
Thanks for being here. It's great to have you.
So, last word, Tom, think about your last word while you write. He has written something.
Sheldrake's
nice to hear from you, Margarita.
Yes, okay. And so I guess Eileen has the last word today, is that it?
Yeah, you too, and me too, and everyone.
Oh, I've had so many
short last word for everyone.
Okay, then I will preface that I really appreciated what you had to say, Eileen, even though it got kind of chopped up, and I'm having a hard time remembering what you did say, but it was good.
Okay. Is it your last word?
I'm going to stop there, yeah.
Okay. I say my last word at the end, okay?
Okay.
So, Eileen, your last word, hopefully with internet.
Yes, my last word, what came up for me when Margarita was speaking is the book of David Hawkins, Power versus Force, Force versus Power versus Force, I think. And it really is indeed our level of consciousness that creates a field around us. And when we are able to stabilize at the level of love, you know, that space of oneness, we influence, I don't have the statistics, I don't have the figure in my head, but a huge amount of people. It impacts the field of consciousness. So it's really, we have to do the work on ourselves and get to that higher level of vibrations so that we can impact our environment. And, you know, learning about those things is great, but then if we stay in our head and not integrate that into our behaviors and our way of being, we are not as effective. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Great. And
All right.
Tom has
left.
left, and he says he will try to join in more regularly from now on. And bye for now. This is Tom. And Scott?
Okay, final word. I like this idea of love to end on because I think it's a powerful force that really kind of shapes us all, because love kind of transcends logic and reason, and we do things out of love all the time. And some of the things we do we think are right, and some of the things we do aren't so helpful or life-affirming. So I think when we work on ourselves and we talk about honestly and transparently about ourselves, that has an impact on that energy field around us, that it can't help but ripple out into the world and make a difference. And it doesn't have to be obvious, it doesn't have to be direct or immediate, but it certainly is something that is important to embody. Embodiment, really. Embody love. Okay.
This is wonderful. So my last word is, that I enjoy very much to meet up with you. Really, this is the sort of conversation I was looking forward.
We're off camera.
We are off camera?
I think so.
No, how can I? This is us. This is Margarita.
Oh, that's
camera.
what I'm sorry.
Okay. So I'm really glad that you come, and I hope in time more people come when they feel confident to be seen on the screen. And everybody needs time to get there, but it's really good when we can speak together and speak in a way where we don't fear anymore to be taken as stupid or as whatever. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who probably think what I say just now is stupid or something, but this is part of the growing process. That me ne frego in Italian, this is not important. Everybody has their perception, and it is important that we go out and say what we feel in our heart. You talked about love. It is love for the world. It's love for humans, what we are doing, because we want to increase this positive energy, all of us, and that's why we are here. And it's wonderful. Thank you, everybody. And I want at the end come back to the links we have up here. One is the Wisdom Factory DA, where we publish the newsletter. It comes once a month, more or less, when there are new shows going on. Communications. Then there is the community. As you are in the community, there might be somebody catching the video from out and is interested. You can join the community in Google+. There is one on Facebook, but it's only sort of a placeholder because we want to use this platform here. And the other one, the link is the Wisdom Gold. This will be a free course done by Lawrence Gold after the end of this, of the second season of the Wisdom Factory shows. In the Wisdom Factory shows, as you know, we are interviewing people, and they are quite, how do you say, high people.
Well, like Said and
like
Elsa.
Said, people who are really out in the world doing great work, and this is a wonderful discussion with them. But what I really appreciate that then between us we can talk about these things and give our own ideas. And I think that's what I wanted to say.
I guess I'm done.
You're done. Okay. We thank you who is watching now or who has participated and who will watch later. And please come on, do this. It's personal growth to come on camera. Okay.
Yes, it is in itself. All right.
Okay, I stop the broadcast here, and we see you next week.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Does that mean we've all grown today?